Now, if you would help me enthusiastically welcome our speaker tonight, Karen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I got some posse here tonight, so I'm comfortable. I'd like to start. Is there anyone here of Irish heritage? Could you raise your hand? Okay. Then you're here in the right place. Because I'm Catholic, Irish, and alcoholic. Yeah, yeah. So I'm in the right place. I've been sober for quite a while. My sobriety date is 10/26/1982. And thanks to God's help in the rooms and the people in the rooms, I have not had to go back out and have a drink. I didn't use for a whole long time. I've heard through the years that women can become alcoholic, really go down the tubes much faster than men can. And I'll tell you, that's exactly what I did. I grew up, I was an only child, and I was the princess. I was the only child, the only grandchild, and the only niece to two sets of aunts and uncles. So at the age of 4, I was out at restaurants having shrimp cocktail and, just being a little lady. And boy, at the end of my drinking, I was not a little lady, let me tell you. But, I had a decent childhood. My mother she has some mental health issues. She had anxiety, which she's gifted on me. But, she did the best that she could. Back in those days, there just wasn't a lot of things other than hospitalization and very minimal, medication for something like that. Thank God that's changed. My father was kind of aloof. He was very busy working. He was very dedicated to his job, and he came from a very angry family. And he just had this booming voice, and it got to the point where I realized years later that my mother just told him not to talk to me, because when he talked to me, he'd yell. Only I got to the point where I would yell right back at him, So it just wasn't. I didn't have a real good relationship with him. There was just something really missing. But I had great grandparents. I had a lot of love in my life. So I'm not an orphan here. I started drinking when I was 14. I went to high school, and I immediately joined the bad kids. I had gone to Catholic school, and I continued on to Catholic school, but I found some people that I really liked, and they went out and they drank and they dated boys, and the girls did, and they smoked cigarettes and all kinds of good things like that. So that was where my career started, and I got drunk as kids do. I don't think I became alcoholic until years later, but we drank under a bridge by Expressway. As a matter of fact, I walked the railing of the Expressway one time when I was drunk, and never thought that, geez, I might fall, in the path of a car or just hit my head on the concrete and die. But there's one time in particular, I remember I was drinking Thunderbird wine, and I saw that advertised someplace a couple weeks ago, and I thought I couldn't imagine that crap was still on the market, because I was under that bridge drinking my Thunderbird wine right out of the bottle, warm, and then I had to go to a friend's house for a birthday party. So I went over to the friend's house, and I walked in her house, and it was from being out in the cold to a very warm house. And I walked down the stairs, and all of a sudden something hit me. And I'm going back to my hometown, Rochester, New York, in the beginning of October. And I don't know, everybody's been looking at this one picture, and the picture is me with my hair hanging down, puking in the dog's dish. And that's how I spent the birthday party. And there were a lot of nights like that. There really were. And I was a kid, and I felt a new sense of freedom being able to hang out with these people. And, I went to school. I did what I had to do. I didn't get into any kind of drugs then. I mean, it wasn't really prevalent around that time. But, I got through. I started dating when I was, well, probably 14, but, when I turned 16, I started going out with someone, and he was I call him my maudlin poet. He was very sad, and he wrote sad poetry, and, he was a very deep thinker, and he never went to school, but he graduated. He just was brilliant, but he's just really screwed up. So I decided that he needed somebody to fix him. So I went to work on that. It was my first of many. So I spent like a couple of years with him, and it just was so depressing. So I saw somebody in school, and back at school, and it was my girlfriend, a friend of mine's boyfriend's friend. I said, "Who's that? I think I'd like to meet him." So I did, and it was an entirely different story. He was tons of fun, and we go out drinking together, and he was a college boy, and so I thought, oh, my parents will be really happy about this, and he comes from a nice Catholic family, and our fathers were in the same type of job, and well, it turns out that he was up all night drinking, and he didn't go to school. So he was only in school for like 8 weeks. That was it. That was the end of the college education. But he drank a lot, and I just figured we're all kids, and that's what they do, is drink a lot. But he would drink and drive like 140 miles an hour, and I just had no fear back then. I really didn't, and I mean, I think about it today, and was I nuts or what? But I went and I graduated from high school, not with honors by any means, but I spent the 2 hours prior to my graduation at the Eastman Theater across the street at a bar restaurant where I knew the people there. And we weren't all quite 18, but that's okay. We could drink anyway. So the bunch of us went to graduation kind of half in the bag. And again, that's what kids did. But I opted to just go to work after high school. My dad didn't feel it was really necessary for me to go to college. He wanted me to find a nice man and marry and have grandchildren and stuff. So I went to work, and I really enjoyed what I was doing. I excelled at what I was doing. I ended up working there for 3 years and got an outstanding rating. They promised me if I came back that, they were grooming me to be a manager there. So anything that I really love doing, I really do. I do like 10% more than I really need to do. But the maudlin poet, I was seeing him off and on with the other guy, also, and he finally took his life, and I was absolutely devastated because I couldn't be with him, but I had such a close relationship with him. I'd never had that close of an intimate relationship with anyone, and I was just at a loss because the other one that I was with was just so surface, a lot of fun, but the depth of a mud puddle. So I was just, I went, when that one boyfriend died, everything that reminded me of him disappeared from my parents' house because my mother said, don't talk about it, don't do anything like that. Because I grew up in a home where things were not discussed. I mean, they were just swept under the blanket. Because there was no yelling or anything like that. We had to be quiet and mannerly. So I learned to stuff really early on, and I would stuff to the point where I would absolutely explode. And I had a vicious temper when I did that. I ended up being out one night at a bar, and I got in a fight with I called him the town clown, the guy that drank a lot, and I left the bar, and he came out and he stood in the way of my car, and I said, "Move." And he said, "I'm not moving. We're going to talk about this." I said, "You're going to move or I'm going to hit you." And he said, "I'm staying here." So I hit him. And he flew over the hood of my car. And I didn't give a rat's ass what happened to him. I just took off and left. So I didn't see him for a while, and I was going out with my friends. And my friend Ellen and I went out to a couple bars this one Friday night, and there were these guys there, and they were just hitting on us, and they were just absolute losers, And I just thought, this is just, oh my God, this is just awful. So I went to a party. We had the guy friends that had this apartment. They used to have parties every weekend. So I went to this party, and I hadn't seen the guy that I hit for 6 weeks. So I did see him, and I said, "You look all right." And he goes, "Yeah." So I was not paying attention to him. He kept on saying, I need to talk to you. So finally I said, "All right." And I went in the kitchen, I sat down there, and he asked me to marry him. Now, I had been out the night before and really been terribly disappointed in the people that were in the bar. So of course I said yes. And my maid of honor, just right before the wedding, I'm in the gown, everybody's ready to go. She throws everybody out my mother's house, and she says, "Come here and sit down on my lap." So I did, and she said, "Don't do this." She says, "Don't do this." She says, she'd been trying to talk me out of it. She said, "I will go to that church. I'll take care of everything. I'll cancel everything. Your parents can just leave. I'll take care of it, but don't do it." I said, "No, I know everything's just going to be fine," because that's what I did, is I worked things out. I did what I had to do. So anyways, we got married, and it wasn't a real fun honeymoon, because I really thought, oh God, I did make a mistake, but okay, I'm stuck now, so I better do my best. So I didn't still drink a whole lot at that point, but over the years of that marriage, I decided the answer was to have children really quickly. They had just straightened his ass right out, and so I had a baby like 18 months after we'd been married, and that didn't work very well. So I had a second one 18 months after that, and then I had a third one 2 years after that. And needless to say, none of them worked. I was married to the wrong person, and there was really nothing wrong with him. He was who he was. And I had no right to be trying to change him. I should have just never gotten myself into that situation. And it took me years in the program to realize that. But we had the third child, and I thought, okay, I set this whole scenario up where he was going to be in the delivery room and see the baby being born, and everything was going to be wonderful, and he's going to say, "Oh, I love you so much, and I love the baby." And we had painted the room pink because I was sure it was going to be a little girl. And he just looked at the baby and he said, "We got to paint the room." That's the only thing he said. So at that point, I realized that I was stuck and there was no place to go. I had 3 little kids. I wasn't fit to work right at that point. I had a very good job, but you know how that goes when you're gone for 4 or 5 years. So I just didn't know what to do. So one night we were in this neighborhood with all these people, all these young couples, and I got so drunk, and I realized that that's what I needed to do, because I was so empty and hurt inside that I just didn't want to feel anything. And I can tell you that is the exact moment I became an alcoholic, because I made that decision. And there wasn't enough to drink in my house, so I went to the next door neighbors, who was a very good friend of mine anyways, who's still a very good friend. I drank everything in his house. And that was just a repetitive thing with me, is I just did that in my life I still did everything that I had to do, but it got tougher and tougher. My alcoholism only lasted, I'd say, 7 years. But let me tell you, at the end of it, I tried to kill myself. I sat with razor blade in my hand, and then I started laughing. I was drunk. I thought, I can't do this, because I'd start to do it. I faint at the sight of blood. So that wouldn't have been successful either. I took a bottle of pills and washed them down with a magnum of champagne. And I didn't want to live. I just didn't want to live anymore, and I didn't know what to do. I just didn't know what to do next. And so I finally called my mother, and I said, I need you to come out, because she was probably the most important person in my life. Man, I had to say something to her. So she sat down at the kitchen table, and I said, I need to tell you that I'm an alcoholic. And it's the first time I've said that. And she said, I know. And so it was obvious to everyone. So she said, what are you going to do about it? So I said, well, I'm going to go to my psychiatrist, who was, nursing along my alcoholism with medication. And I said I was going to go to her. And so I went to her, and I said, what do I do? I'm supposed to go with the AA, but are there really any women in AA, or is it all guys? And because I had a friend that was in AA. And I'd ask him, do you get off like one day a year or something? Do you get like New Year's Eve or your birthday or Christmas? And he said, it's one day at a time, Karen. And I thought, that is AA bullshit. That's exactly what I believed is. And I thought when I got in here that I don't know what, but I just knew the party was over. I would never have fun again. They would be boring people. And, I just would be living drudgery all the rest of my life. And, so I started going to the meetings, and I still hadn't completely quit. So what happened one day is I took those pills that the doctor gave me, and I washed them down with something. And I had what they call the synergistic effect, where I was like out of my mind crazy. And it was my son's 11th birthday. And my mother-in-law walked in the house, and I told her everything I'd always wanted to tell her. I don't remember anything about it, but my kids were upstairs hiding in their rooms. My daughter was the bravest one of the three of them, and she called friends of mine, and they had been there for me. She called Linda, and they came down and dragged me out of my own home. And Linda found numbers from AA women in my purse, so she called a couple of them, and they agreed to come out and have coffee with me. Well, we went out, and I just remember, I don't remember much of what they said, but Linda just looked at me. She says, you know what, Karen? You were in the hospital last week. I have no idea what you took today, but if we take you back there, they're probably going to put you in someplace and throw away the key. And she says, and I love you very much, but she says, I'm not going to do this anymore. So that was like the frosting on the cake for me. And I came back to AA on my knees, and I went in, and they said, is there anyone new? I raised my hand, and I started to cry, and I cried all through the whole meeting. And people came up to me afterwards, and they were very friendly, and people gave me their numbers and things, and I was like, yeah, that's okay, very nice for you, but I'm just going to sit there, I'm going to read your book and look at those things on the wall, but don't get anywhere near me, because I was so broken that I thought if anybody touched me, I would just break into little pieces. So I got into it. People got me going. There was a convention a month after I got sober, so they got me going working on the convention. And I got in one place. I didn't, I come a little bit late and leave a little early, so they made me a coffee maker, so I had to come early. In a women's meeting, and then I had to meet other women where I would much rather have spent my time with the men. But at this point, I absolutely hated my husband. I hated him. I said back in those days we had this floral, real bright color wallpaper in the kitchen. I wanted to shoot him dead. Just put him up there, and blow them to little pieces. And I've never felt anything like that for anybody in my life. And but they said, just keep on coming back. I said, yeah, but my husband, well, yeah, don't worry about him. You just come here and talk to us. And he ended up coming to AA 6 weeks later. But, so we went to our separate meetings. I went to an outpatient treatment program, and then he went after that. He went to the same treatment center. And, we were civil to each other. And, they told me to read page 552. And if you know what that is, it's the, that's the acceptance of people the way they are and forgiveness. And so I did. I prayed to God. They said, just pray to God and for everything that you would want to see good happen in your life. So I said, I can't do that. They said, okay, well, you can start off by saying, God, give him everything he deserves. And that really helped me for a while. And then I finally started praying for him in earnest. And that was just lifted from me. That hate, that horrible, horrible hate was lifted from me. And we stayed married for 3.5 years, and I realized that wasn't really, it was just not going to work. But we both went to our AA meetings, and I got a sponsor, and I did the deal. And in those days, people weren't as nice as they are today. You go out and people go, oh, come on, it's okay. You come back, and they'd say, sit down in the chair and shut up. And okay, all right. And I'm glad that they did that to me, because I needed that. I needed that structure. I needed to not be able to talk myself out of things like I could, and I really needed the tough love, and I got it. And I got the good love, too. I mean, I've gone through things in sobriety, and people have always been there for me. I went back to work, and I became a real estate broker, and my girlfriend, I have, about the Irish, my best friend's name is Mallie McGee, and my favorite uncle is Bud O'Brien, and, so in our family, his drunk restaurants dry of their chosen beer. So, I mean, we just, it was a big drinking family. So I went back to work, and I stayed, as I said, I stayed married, but it just wasn't working for me. So I had become very good friends with my boss, okay? And, And I really loved him. I did. He was a great guy, really helpful and stuff. And they were all a bunch of mobsters. I went to work at this place, and they were all Italian. I thought, what is this? So one day I went to him, and I said to the people in the office, I need to get a toilet. We're remodeling the bathroom. He goes, go see Johnny D. So I went in and go, Johnny D. So I said, I need a toilet. He got on the phone. He says, what color you need? I told him, and he said, okay. He goes, you got cash? I said, yeah. So he says, okay. He says, she's coming down there, and it's Karen. So he got off the phone. He goes, I want you to go down there and tell him Johnny D sent you. There's a green door. Knock on the green door, and your toilet will be waiting there for you. Well, that's the love of my life right there. So we were together for about 6 years, and we really did. We just had it was being with somebody who was emotionally available. He wasn't really available, because he had been married too. But it just was it was something that got us both back on our feet. It's just being able to talk to somebody who tells you how they feel, really, and is not trying to, turn around and try to screw you up in some way or another. So that didn't last for a whole long time, but then I was by myself, and I still went to AA, wanted to AA all the time, and my sponsor finally said to me about this thing. She said, I'm not going to tell you not to do it, because I know you're going to, and you're going to have to, and you're going to pay the piper down the road. So she said, with my blessing, go do this. And I did, but I picked up a lot of things from AA during this time, and from him, and from working. I got some self-esteem, which I hadn't had before. I was, I was out there doing something really productive, and people were listening to me, and I got to know what I was doing really well, and so when he left, it was the first time I had really been alone since I was 14 years old. I had always had a man on my arm, and I felt just a hole inside of me, just so deep. And I had to really work on that. And I had to work on learning that I had to live for myself. I couldn't live for anybody else. And I was worthy of good things. And I had a house, and I sold the house and bought myself a little townhouse, and for me and my kids. And I had been having trouble with my son, my oldest son, because he thought I'd been a young mom, that he was the boss of the family now. So I just tried, we tried different things, and nothing worked. So I finally said, out. And he said, well, what? And I said, go live with your father. And he thought this was just a temporary thing for a couple of days till I cooled off, and it wasn't. Because people told me I didn't deserve that kind of treatment. Now, my daughter decided to get into drugs. She got with some people, and she started smoking pot, and she did a little cocaine. And so I'm trying to get her into some kind of youth program. And, she quit school, and she said, I said, you either have to go back to school, I've got a bed for you to go to treatment, or you have to leave. And she chose to leave the house. So I said, okay. And I said, you should really try this treatment. She goes, Mom, it'll be over my dead body. Well, I planned this big, I've just had so many miracles in my life. I just planned this big intervention. I mean, there were doctors and psychiatrists and principals and everybody in the family and friends. And all of a sudden, I just got this thing that came over me, and it says, put her in God's hands. So I get down on my knees and I put her in God's hands. 3 days later, she came to me and said, Mom, I need to go to that treatment center. And that's just one of the many, many miracles I've had happen in my life. I mean, I just can't tell you. There's a lot of young people in here today, and, you may think that this is a bunch of bullshit, and this old lady's up here, giving you a little more bullshit, But I can tell you that I've had more fun in AA than I've ever had any place in my life. And I've gone to places other than AA. I've gone to Al-Anon. I've gone to Codependence Anonymous. I've gone to a lot of seminars. I've learned how to meditate. There's a whole world out there. And even AA is very important, but don't shut the whole rest of the world out, because they've got things to say too. I just went back to a church that I'd gone to before. It's a non-denominational kind of metaphysical thing, and that's what I'm into today. God, I had a real problem with God because of my upbringing. I thought, well, I'm doomed to go to hell anyways, so why try that hard? And, it was a feared thing. And there's one thing in the Mass, one thing that they say, and I just thought, oh my God, it's that, God, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And I thought, who the hell came up with that? It wasn't God. So I've developed a relationship with whatever it is. I don't like the word God. So I do a lot of searching. So I found the Greek word for God means depth. And I thought, that's what it is. It's something right down inside of me. It says that in page 55. And that's where my God is. And I can tell you that all kinds of things happened to me. I mean, I was really sick this year. I was building this house, and if anything else could go wrong, I can't imagine what it would be. And it just was constant trouble with contractors and getting materials, and the materials that come in, they'd be wrong. And I just, I had to keep on going. I had to keep on plugging away, and I started getting like my anxiety had been going up, for probably the previous 6 months, but it was like overtaking me. I finally got to the point where I wasn't sleeping at night, and I was sleeping maybe an hour, and I couldn't eat. I lost 20 pounds, and I just was pacing the floor, and I didn't know what to do. So I ended up in the hospital, and what they did is they just pumped me through full of drugs. And I've got these 2 little dogs and my family, and I was looking under the bed for one of my dogs because I thought that they were there. And I mean, what did I need to be on those drugs for? I mean, this was absolutely ridiculous. Well, what I did, I was in 2 different hospitals, or excuse me, 3, for a total period of 30 days. And I looked at these things they were doing. I had heart palpitations. They were doing this thing on me, this $9,000 test where they check the palpitations, the regularity of them. And I decided to look at all my scores of blood work and like that. Well, I've had problems with my thyroid since I was probably in my early 30s. So I'm looking through the blood things. All of a sudden, I see my thyroid numbers. And my thyroid numbers, the highest it would possibly supposed to be would be 117. Mine was 147. And I looked up on the internet the symptoms, and they were all the symptoms I was having. So I went to the doctors, and they said, "Holy cow, I guess you're right." So I mean, believe me, I've had to really pray on this not to get a real resentment. Because that was like 3 months out of my life, and I drove everybody crazy. But let me tell you, the good part of it is that I was involved much more with my kids. My son that I'd thrown out of the house, we've mended fences since then, and he came from Rochester, New York, and helped my handyman finish the house and spent 10 days with me. My best friend, one of my 2 best friends from Rochester, came out and spent 2 weeks with me. I mean, I had so much love in the people in the program and helping me out. It was an awful time for me. I just didn't think I could live through this. But I just got so much help. And it's all because of the program, They say come back it's free and for fun. And as I said, I've just had wonderful fun. I've gone on vacations with friends. I've gone camping. We've had parties all the time. We get together, a bunch of women, and have a soup for the soul where we do the 11th step once a month. And it's really neat just having a bunch of women around, just really bearing their souls and telling what's going on with their lives. And I can sit down with anybody in the program. I remember being somewhere sometime, and I was like 38 at the time, and I was talking to this girl, 16. We were at a pajama party, and we talked like all night long, and because we had that commonality of AA, and it's just I can sit down with anybody in the program, and I feel like I've known them forever, and it's just a whole different life than I ever could have imagined, and it's just something beautiful. I went for about 4 years without going to a meeting. I was really busy. I was in the Valley. I owned a real estate company. I was buying houses, and fixing them up and selling them. I was making money hand over fist, and I had it made. And then 2008, the market dropped, and I lost it all. I lost it all, except for I had a vacation home up in Pine Top. So I thought, I need to maybe beat a path out of town right now until I figure out what to do. I think that I can subsist on what I can get from my company and live up there till I can figure out what to do. And I did that, and I was like, I I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do next, and you know, I I just did the next right thing, and this is kind of a crazy thing. I was looking up one day, and I hadn't been going to AA at this time, and I saw a license plate, and the first two letters on it were AA. And then I saw another one, and I saw another one. Now, it wasn't that I was imagining it. It happened to be at the time where they were doing this. They were just putting AA on all the license plates, AA and the number. It was before anybody got these fancy license plates. So I kept on seeing it. So I had a friend in the car with me one time, and she had thought I was absolutely crazy. So I finally said, there's one, and we saw like 5 more, and then didn't see any. So what I did is I went up to Pine Top, and I walked into a women's meeting, and I just cried like a baby, and I realized that I was home, and why would I have not gone to meetings during this time? So, that was an experience I will never do again. So please, you start feeling really good, and you think, I got this licked. But let me tell you, I was this close to taking a drink or a drug, and, it wouldn't have taken me very much to go right over the edge and go back worse than I had been and lose literally everything. I gained back the relationship with my children. I had 5 grandsons. I just had so many gifts in life. And, money and houses, they don't mean a thing. They really don't. It's your peace of mind and the people that you surround yourself with. That's what's important to me. And I've got friends in the program, and I've got friends outside the program. And, I have a full life today. I really do. I'm going to go back, and I've kind of taken a couple of years off here building and rehabbing and everything. I'm all done with that. So I'm going to go back into sales, and I'm really looking forward to it. I've got a whole thing planned out, and I've talked to some people about it, and I'm really excited about getting back into it. I've had one thing is I had quite a few bills at the end of building this house. Well, one of them was the certificate of occupancy. I hadn't turned it into the HOA. I get a bill for $5,400 penalties for not giving this piece of paper to them. So I called them up. I said, I can't pay this. What is this, ridiculous? I've had this since October. They said, well, we didn't know that. And I said, well, I need you to waive this. And they said, no, we're not going to waive it. Well, I take my dogs for a walk around the neighborhood every twice a day, and I meet a lot of different neighbors. And this was one lady I hadn't met before, and so this other neighbor introduced us, and her name is Angela. And I said, "Oh, Angela, hi, nice to meet you." And I look under her arm, and she's got this notebook, and it says Architectural Committee. I thought, oh boy, I'm in trouble now. I said, look, I can't tell you how sorry I am about this whole thing with the house. I had to fire contractors, and they had liens on me, and it just was a nightmare, and the weather. And she said, yeah, I know. So I got home that afternoon, my phone rang, and it was the HOA calling me and saying they've decided to waive all those fees except for $465. Now, that's a gift. That's a gift, and I get these things all the time. I really do. I'm not BSing you up here. And as far as, God, I get up in the morning and I get down on my knees. I make sure, because now I told somebody I sponsor, you got to get on your knees, so I have to every morning. And, so I do, and I meditate in the morning before I get going, and, it's a beautiful journey. I've just gone back to a church, as I said, this unity that it's a metaphysical kind of thing. And I went there Sunday. It was just really cool what they talked about. It was an exercise that you do. I thought that really sounds like it would work. It's not this, I didn't have to kneel down and, confess anything to anybody. And it's what works for me, and I don't mean to downplay what any other belief is, but it's just a good life, and please come back and don't not go to meetings. That's like, you forget it. I have a son that's a little over a year sober, and I thought he was going to die. He had pancreatitis, and he's 47, and he just got sober. And so I haven't seen him in like a year. It was COVID, and then he's been in a halfway house, and he went to the Salvation Army. I tried to get him in all kinds of treatment programs when he was in the hospital with the pancreatitis, and nothing seemed to work out. And he said, Mom, somebody came to me here, and they mentioned the Salvation Army, and I can go there, and it's free. So he goes, that's what I'm going to do. And I have all my hard work on that. I said, God bless you, go to the Salvation Army. And it just helped him so much. It just really did. And, I'm hoping he still goes to meetings. I'm going to go down there tomorrow, as I said, and have lunch, and we're going to run around and do some stuff. But, I've also got a grandson that's been a heroin addict, and he's in and out of the program. He lived with me up here for 8 months, and then his behavior got really bad, and I had to, heave home, send him back to his parents. And then he took off, but he had 8 months back then, and you could see the difference in him. So, good. I'm trying to fill up my time now. But anyways, my message is keep on coming back, because if it's not fun today, it'll be fun tomorrow or a month from now. And just listen to what the winners say. When you find people that are struggling and wringing their hands and stuff, listen to them politely, but go with the people that have the smiles on their faces. And I always like to watch people's eyes. I've got to think for people's eyes. And you can see who's happy and who's not by just looking at somebody's eyes. Well, I didn't come here to be miserable. And I plan my life. As I said, I planned that marriage, I planned this, I planned that. I plan to be happy in sobriety, and that's my main goal, and to be good to other people. So that's it for me. Thank you.